3, hit it!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And today is the first part of a new series I'm going to be playing with called A User's Guide to Mental Health. And it's not official. I'm not a doctor, though I played one on TV once. But it is something that I hope will be very helpful to you if you have ever struggled with any sort of mental health issues. And got to give the disclaimer because it's a good disclaimer. If you are suffering, there are medical avenues for help. There are licensed avenues for help. This is just a user's guide. This is for you, and it might help, and it certainly can't hurt. And if you want to hear more about these kinds of themes, I encourage you to check out two things. There's a free program we offer on our website at michaelneill.org/basic course, which is called The Basic Course in Living from the Inside Out Understanding. And that's 12 short sessions, which will kind of give you a nice framework for understanding your own mental health and what to do with it. But also there's a book that I didn't write, but I did publish called It's That Simple, A User's Manual for Human Beings by Mavis Karn. And I really encourage you to pick up a copy of that book. You can get it on Amazon or any online retailer, and it's just a really lovely, gentle guide to who you are. So, what is part one of A User's Guide to Mental Health? It's a notion that if you've been struggling, if you've got a diagnosis, if you struggle with your mental health, is going to sound crazy. But it's a simple question. What if you're already innately mentally healthy? What if there's nothing wrong with you, but you've got some habits of thinking that are really, really unhelpful? And I want to tell you a little bit about my story as a way of kind of explaining how that works. So from the time I was I was a preteen, teenager, I'd say around the age of 13, I started suffering from massive anxiety, paranoia, hallucinations, depression. I was a psychological mess. Now, nothing was particularly wrong in my life, and I continued to be mostly functional, and I did well, and I went on to university. But I struggled throughout that time with depression and anxiety and suicidal ideation, and it came to a head one night with a story that if you've not seen, probably rather than go through the long story here, you can watch a TEDx talk I did called "Why Aren't We Awesomer?" and you can kind of hear the story. But suffice it to say, it kind of came to a head one night, and when I came out the other side, it was never so bad again. So I still struggled with my mental health, but it was no longer scary to me, and I found ways of coping, and I went on to be pretty successful in my field and helping other people with NLP and other modalities that I learned. And I learned to be what I called and considered sort of triumphantly a high-functioning depressive. Until one day, I was watching a video featuring an enlightened Scottish welder named Sydney Banks. And it was one of these videos that I'd been told to watch by somebody, and I respected the person enough to watch it, but I didn't really want to watch it. And it was a little schlocky, and he came out in a Hawaiian shirt, and they put a lei around him, and it was like, oh God, okay. But I did watch, and he had a sort of a gentle way about him. And about 10 minutes into the talk, he said, every human being is sitting in the middle of mental health. They just don't know it. And I heard it. It's the only way I can explain it. I just got it. I just got that it was true. That despite decades of thinking of myself as somebody who struggled with their mental health and being somebody who struggled with their mental health, I wasn't born that way. There was nothing wrong with me. I just thought there was. I just had had made up a story about why I struggled with things that was to do with mental health that wasn't a true story. And what I came to see, and what I'm going to be sharing with you over these episodes of the User's Guide to Mental Health, are just some of the things that I saw for myself that I found really helpful along the way. But for today, I want you to start with a little thought experiment. And that thought experiment is, like the question, what if you're already innately mentally healthy? That's part one. And I just want you to sit with that and go, well, how could that be true? I struggle with, and then you've got your list of things you struggle with. But what if those struggles are a function of learned thought, learned patterns of thinking, just habits that inadvertently you've got into of using the mind to create kind of an internal environment that's really unpleasant and at times maybe even dysfunctional. And that if that thinking pattern changed, you would have a different experience of life. And so one way that I thought of to kind of as a sort of a little furtheration of the experiment, imagine that you lost the ability to think about the past or the future. So you could still respond in the present. You would still know what was going on around you. But you just, for whatever reason, brain glitch, and you lost the ability to think about the past or think about the future. What would that be like? Do you think you would still struggle with your mental health? Or do you think in real time you'd be okay? Because you wouldn't be able to scare yourself with, oh my God, why did this happen to me? Looking back at the past, what did I do wrong? Or, oh my God, what if one day I need to think about the future? Because you wouldn't be able to think about the past or the future. You'd just be here listening to me. Would there be anything wrong with you right here, right now, listening to me? And my experience when I've done this little thought experiment with people is people realize, oh, no, if I couldn't do that, I'd be fine. And then they go back off into the past and the future. But here's the thing. If without thinking about the past or the future, you're fine, that means you're fine. You've just gotten into some habits of thinking about the past and thinking about the future that are really unhelpful. And over the course of this little user's guide, I'm gonna share some other ways of thinking about thought and thinking about your own mental health that I hope you'll find very helpful. So until then, have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.